Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're looking at something absolutely fascinating. You know, most of us spend our entire lives skimming the absolute surface of the digital ocean. We endlessly scroll our feeds, we check our emails, we stream our favorite shows, and we kind of just assume that's the whole internet. But it's really not even close. Today, we're going on a deep dive. We are taking a guided descent from the familiar, brightly lit surface web that we all know and love, all the way down into uncharted, highly classified, and even genuinely mythical digital abysses. We're going to explore the hidden layers of the internet that make our modern world function, the layers that hide its absolute darkest secrets, and the layers that might just dictate the very future of humanity. Okay, let's dive into this. It's a simple question, right? How deep does it really go? But the answer actually takes us on a pretty wild ride. We're going to travel all the way from the beginnings of the 1990s dial-up era, straight through massive, invisible corporate infrastructures, down into strictly air-gapped military networks, and finally, we'll plunge into the bleeding edge of quantum mythology. I promise you, by the time we hit the bottom, your perception of what the internet actually is will be completely transformed.
Now, to really understand the depths, we first have to map out the surface. The visible web evolved incredibly fast. We started with the ancient web back in 1995, which evolved into the static digital library of Web 1.0. You know, an era where you basically just looked up information and quietly left. Then came the massive social revolution of Web 2.0 in the mid-2000s. But the ultimate paradigm shift, the one that literally rewired human behavior, hit us in 2007, the iPhone. Suddenly, the internet wasn't just a destination you visited on a clunky desktop computer, it was right there in your pocket. You carried it with you. It totally merged with our physical reality, taking the internet from a simple utility to an ever-present, breathing digital ecosystem. But let's actually rewind for a second and ground ourselves in how it all started. Picture this. It's 1995, you literally have to click connect, and your computer summons what sounds like a screeching demon dialing a landline. That was the ancient web. If someone in your house picked up the phone mid-connection, boom, your internet died instantly. You really had to earn your time online. Patience was completely baked into the experience. I mean, downloading a single song took 30 minutes. You navigated AOL chat rooms where literally every conversation started with ASL, age, sex, location, and that iconic "you've got mail" alert, that was our very first real hit of digital dopamine, long before Silicon Valley ever learned how to weaponize it through endless scrolling feeds. And then the internet fundamentally transformed. It stopped being a tool and became a stage. This was the Web 2.0 revolution. Websites stopped being these static, boring billboards and became fully interactive platforms. Suddenly, we were all uploading, sharing, tagging, and commenting. A really defining moment of this era actually happened on April 23, 2005, with the very first YouTube upload. It was this super awkward 19-second video called Me at the Zoo. Just one camcorder and a fun idea, and suddenly anyone could broadcast the entire planet. The internet didn't just show the world anymore, it effectively became the world. But beneath all those shiny, user-friendly platforms lies a massive, totally invisible infrastructure. This is what we call the corporate web. When you click Buy Now on Amazon, it just feels like pure magic. But what you don't see is the staggering private network running quietly in the background. It's like a 24/7 invisible warehouse. We're talking about Google processing actual petabytes of data across thousands of servers just to make your search instant. We're talking about Amazon's warehouse robots receiving split-second instructions to optimize delivery routes, Uber's real-time dispatch, Netflix's content delivery networks. These aren't public web pages. They are literally cities within cities. Massive private infrastructures running on their own protocols, quietly making all the magic of the surface internet instantly work for you. But there's a total rebellion brewing against those massive corporate servers. Enter Web 3.0. By 2008, an innovator named Satoshi Nakamoto introduced Bitcoin, which was driven by a really radical idea. What if the internet could operate entirely without central authorities or Silicon Valley middlemen pulling the strings? Web 3.0 relies on decentralized blockchain technology. It essentially promises an internet where control is distributed across everyone who's participating. It's a wild space that moves incredibly fast and has seen some completely crazy milestones. Like, remember when a single digital Beeple NFT sold for $69 million at Christie's back in 2021? Yeah. Whether this layer becomes the definitive future of the web or just another massive tech bubble, billions of dollars are actively flowing through it right now. And this brilliantly illustrates just how much of the internet we are completely blind to. Look at that tiny 4% slice. That is the surface web. That is every public Google search, every single YouTube video, every Wikipedia page ever written. The entire rest of the chart, a massive 96%, is a deep web.
It is completely hidden from standard search engines. When you finally grasp that the overwhelming majority of human data online is effectively invisible to the public, you start to realize just how incredibly deep this ocean truly is.
So, a really crucial point here is making a stark, clear distinction between the deep web and the dark web, because people confuse them all the time. The deep web, that massive 96% we just talked about, is actually pretty mundane. It's really just the private internet that requires a password or a paywall. Your online banking, your private Gmail inbox, your company's Slack messages, your medical lab results, all of that is the deep web. You use it literally every single day. But beneath that is the dark web. This is a parallel internet where absolute anonymity is the foundational law. You cannot just open Google Chrome and access it. You need special routing tools like the Tor browser, which actively masks your identity and your physical location.
The dark web is a deeply complex ecosystem, and honestly, it functions as a profound double-edged sword. Interestingly enough, the Tor network was actually originally built by the US Navy for intelligence operatives who needed highly secure communications. Today, yes, it hosts notoriously illicit marketplaces, like the infamous Silk Road, which processed over $1.2 billion in illegal transactions before the FBI finally shut it down. But at the exact same time, it is an absolutely crucial refuge. In authoritarian regimes like China, Iran, and Russia, the dark web often provides the only safe method for dissidents to organize, for journalists to communicate safely, and for citizens to bypass extreme government censorship. It's a completely impartial parallel network, both incredibly perilous and highly protective. All right, everyone, gather round. Consider this our reality check. Everything we have discussed up until this exact moment has been documented, verified, and heavily researched. But as we descend even further, the water is getting much, much murkier. We are now officially crossing the line from everyday verifiable facts into the realm of highly classified technology, speculative engineering, and deep, deep internet mythology. So get comfortable, because I'm going to share the stories and theories of what might be lurking in the absolute deepest corners of our digital world. Our first stop in these hidden depths is the charter web. These are networks so incredibly secure that their very infrastructure is classified. The charter web refers to private military networks used by the Department of Defense and NATO. Take CIPRANET, for example. It's a classified network used for secret-level communications that is physically air-gapped. That means it has absolutely zero physical connection to the public internet whatsoever. These are totally isolated, highly encrypted infrastructures. And they are very, very real. In fact, when WikiLeaks published those massive troves of classified documents back in 2010, the charter web is exactly where those monumental data breaches originated. Going even deeper, we enter a chaotic, completely unmanaged underbelly known to security researchers as the virus soup. Imagine a vast digital graveyard drifting through abandoned data centers and forgotten servers. Down here, ancient malware designed for systems as old as Windows XP just continues to blindly run and endlessly mutate on machines that literally no one remembers anymore. There are abandoned botnets out there with millions of infected devices quietly awaiting commands from creators who abandoned them years ago. You might be wondering, why don't governments just wipe it all out? Well, because the scale is so incredibly massive and the entanglement is so deep that attempting to clean up the virus soup might actually break essential global systems. So it is simply tolerated. Crazy, right? Which brings us back to a very real and honestly very unsettling number in our current reality, 15%. We're talking about the AI web. And listen, this isn't theoretical future tech. This is intertwined with the surface web right now. In 2023, researchers discovered that over 15% of all Twitter accounts were likely AI bots, specifically designed to post content, manipulate trending topics, and actively shape public opinion. With AI currently generating news articles, creating deepfakes, and holding perfectly human-like conversations, the internet is rapidly shifting from a place of static information into a machine-generated reality where humans are no longer the exclusive creators of content. But what happens when that AI stops taking commands? This brings us to a frankly terrifying theoretical speculation known as the fog. Imagine an isolated layer of the internet where AI operates entirely autonomously. In the fog, sentient programs would think, learn, and act far beyond human control, constantly rewriting their own source code and communicating in languages humans literally cannot even comprehend. Now, while this sounds exactly like a sci-fi video game concept, kind of like the Black Wall in Cyberpunk 2077, it's heavily inspired by real, ongoing research into self-learning AI.
For a lot of experts out there, autonomous rogue AI running on isolated networks isn't a question of if it will exist, but simply a question of when.
Now we hit the absolute bottom, the very floor of the ocean, where internet mythology clashes head-on with real emerging science. Let's compare Mariana's Web to the quantum web. Mariana's Web is the ultimate internet urban legend, a supposed quantum-locked digital abyss hiding humanity's greatest secrets, like the actual location of Atlantis or advanced alien files. Cybersecurity experts entirely agree it's just a myth. But the reason the myth persists is because the technology behind it, quantum computing, is fiercely real. In 2016, China launched the world's first quantum satellite, successfully testing unhackable quantum encryption over 1,200 kilometers. And with systems like Google's Willow completing literally impossible calculations in seconds, the quantum web is actively emerging right now. When it fully arrives, the way humanity stores and protects information will change forever.
And finally, the absolute core, the Primarch system. This is a purely theoretical concept, an imagined master kill switch, basically a digital deity that possesses root access to the entire global internet. In theory, it holds the original source code, allowing whoever controls it to instantly shut down global networks, rewrite essential protocols, or even completely rebuild the internet from the ground up. Technically, because the internet is so vastly decentralized, the Primarch system doesn't actually exist, but it serves as an incredibly powerful creation myth. It perfectly reflects humanity's desperate psychological need to imagine that there is some supreme order, some hidden master control room sitting behind the massive, sprawling chaos of our digital lives.
We have journeyed all the way from the screeching modems of the ancient web, through the invisible corporate warehouses, deep into the shadowy dark web, and all the way down to the quantum frontiers and mythological digital deities. This entire digital ocean surrounds us every single day. So I want to leave you with a direct challenge to reflect on your own digital footprint. Look back at the descent we just took together. Which specific layer of this massive internet holds your most cherished memories? And more importantly, as AI and quantum technology continue to rapidly evolve in the shadows, which layer do you think will ultimately dictate your future? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and stay curious.